afternoon. This is Waiba, the Audible African Woman Kenya election series, and we are continuing to cover how or document how young women experience elections. And today we have an exciting young woman who will introduce herself and her very versatile and vast portfolio, Anita Soina, who was a first time voter, as I said, but also vied. Anita, welcome Sana to Swaiba podcast.
Thank you
We've
very
had
much. Yeah.
enough about you before you
Mhm.
came, and we are very lucky to be featuring your story.
Thank you
But
very
first,
much.
introduce yourself.
My name is Anita Soina. I am 22 years of age. I come from the Maasai community. I am an environmentalist by passion, climate change advocate and activist. I am also a graduate. I studied at Multimedia University of Kenya, where I pursued a bachelor's degree in public public relations and corporate communication. So totally, I did not study anything related to environment, but it is my passion. And also, I did that to pass the message that you can be in whichever field and still be environmentally conscious. I also
This is
run,
true.
yes, I also run an organization. Um, it's called Spice Warriors Organization that aims at taking climate education to the grassroots level, from primary school level to even community level upwards. And I am also an author of a book called The Green War.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yes, which I published it during COVID to highlight just a few things in conservation, my personal story of how I found myself in the space. And I'm also passionate about politics and leadership. This was from a very young age where I was so interested in politics. I am one person who watches news. Even before I had my ID, I remember the past election was 2017. I was not eligible to vote, but I played a very big role during the campaigns. So that's how much passionate I am about it.
Clearly.
Yeah, I'm also a TEDx speaker, 2021 TEDx speaker, and my speech was on the
I
Green
didn't know
Wall.
that.
Yes, my speech was on the Green Wall, which is also the title of my book. I'm now running a foundation, which is the Soina Foundation, which we intend to help communities in different challenges. I mean, I wear so many caps. I don't think I will finish everything.
I would say let's go on because you are the kind of young woman that we want to feature for the Audible
Yeah,
African
yeah,
Woman series, and we
mm,
are so excited
yeah,
that you have done that for yourself, for your community, but
yeah,
also that you continue
yeah,
to feature, especially. I want to get to questions, but I think I would want to first ask because I want to ask why climate justice in
yeah,
terms of governance processes.
yeah.
But I think my first question would be, how did you experience elections as a young
Yeah.
woman?
Being in politics, especially when you're the one really inside, I can call it a game because politics is more of a game. It's not really easy as compared to when you're looking at it from outside. From outside, it looks all fun, and you don't really get to understand the challenges. I really went through so many challenges that at some point I felt like, you know what, it's not really a must. We can change the world through other ways.
Other ways,
Yeah, that I
yeah,
don't
it's
really have to
tedious.
suffer
Yeah.
and all that. Looking at the culture of politics, first of all, in Kenya and even Africa, is not favorable for young people and also women. So you
Young
can
women.
imagine
And you were both. You were a young woman
being both,
and
and yeah, and
yeah.
also coming from a society where they still believe that you can't be a woman and just stand and talk before us. It's something that has changed over years,
Over
but it's
time.
still a challenge that makes it not easy for women. It does not give us a level ground, so we don't have a level playing ground when in that space. I remember. I think the first challenge that we usually have is resources because it starts from the nomination processes
Hmm.
where the fees are quite hefty. You're needed to
And
raise
yeah.
a huge amount of money just to be in a certain party, and then that is before you even go down to the nomination process itself. So it's something that is quite problematic. But also, I'd say there are so many other challenges. Like even, politics requires you to be active throughout, including during the night. For me,
Yes.
I only did it, I think, for the first month, and then from then I stopped because things were getting. You're not really secure about everything.
Yes. Do you worry
You
about your
can't.
personal security?
Yes, you
Yeah.
do. At first, I used to ignore it. I remember I used to ignore it, and my party leader was not happy about it. Like, why are you working at night? and you really don't take this thing seriously. And in my head, I'm like, I'm not even a threat, so why
Oh,
should I
so you
worry?
think,
Yeah, but
yeah.
then it got to a point. There's a time where my car was vandalized during the day. I had just parked the
Oh,
car.
wow.
Yeah, it was branded. I just parked the car at the petrol station, and then these young people who usually the matatu people, they just came and they started vandalizing the car and shouting my opponent's name, and
Oh, really? So
yeah,
it was
and
almost a
yes, and I
staged
was just trying to
intimidation.
tell them that what, that guy is my friend. You can even talk to him through my phone. This is not enmity. It
Did
is
you have
just a
security or were
competition.
you?
And I had my friends in the car. I didn't have security. I had my friends in the car, and I got to politics when, and because of the resources, I really didn't have the experienced personnel. So I had to pick my friends and some members of my organization to be
To
with me
actually
during the
build.
campaign period. These are people
Yeah.
who have never been in that space before.
So
So
even
they
them,
were
that is a
scared inside the
risk.
car, and I was that day I was driving, so they're all scared. There's nothing I could do, and I just had to leave. It was very chaotic.
You had places where you were not allowed, you were not
Yeah,
given
and then
opportunities to speak.
patriarchy. I mean, why you go to people to ask for votes and they want to see your husband. First of all, I'm 22. When I announced my candidacy, I was 21. So for me, I'm not married yet. I didn't even have a boyfriend to carry around during the campaigns because they just want to see that there's
Even
someone.
for aesthetics.
And
But why is that a requirement though?
I don't know. It's just they're just trying to find excuses, and and when you even show someone, they will still ask for the kids. So for me,
Oh,
it was a big
yeah,
challenge,
it's
and
you don't have a husband
yeah,
now, you don't have a child,
but one time I sat down and asked myself, how many women have kids and they have not been elected? How many women have shown their families that they have
but
not
not
been
being
elected?
elected.
And how many have also not shown the same and have been elected? So I didn't.
You still had to
Yeah,
throw
I just
yourself
had to
out there.
do it, and I really have. There's this one heartbreaking moment. I used to get financial support from my friends and maybe resource support, like I could get t-shirts. There was this we had some organizations that were giving out materials to support women and all that, and so I was not doing handouts because it's quite expensive. You
Of
can
course.
imagine you're
And,
at.
and it's interesting because that's a culture we
Yeah,
have as
it's a
people.
culture here, and
Yeah.
the reason I didn't do it, number one, is because I did not have, but also because even if I had, I don't think I would have done it, because you're trying to correct every
Change.
problem that is there in the culture of politics
This
in
is
our
true.
country. So there was this one time where I went to a place and people did not allow me to leave if I was not going to give people money.
What do you mean they didn't allow you to
Yes, they
leave?
did not allow me to leave. I had gone with my friend and we were using his car. So at this point, I'm just thinking about the car. And at that point, people need about maybe 100 to 200 shillings per person. And there are so many people who are there. And they don't care that, oh, you're young. That's not their problem. Even if an
Because
infant came
politics has
today.
been commercialized.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it has become a business. And I had to give all I had. And then I started going to my savings,
Oh, really? In
yes,
that
I
in
went
the
to my savings. Um, and I used to just use my card to pay the little things, like I'd go to the petrol station, fuel the cars, fuel the generators, and all that. And after so many months, towards the end, because I was just using it for small
payments.
transactions,
Yeah.
I I went to the petrol station and I was trying to pay 5,000 Kenya shillings on my card, and the attendant returned the card and said, "There's no money."
It is declined.
Yes, that is when I knew I had exhausted everything that I have been saving for years, and I just I just went home. I paid with my phone and then I went home. I left my friends were in the car. It was a 7-seater, so we were all full. And I
Mm-hmm.
went home to the parking. I parked the car. I went to my room. I locked myself in the room, and I stayed there. We didn't proceed for the campaigns. That was so heartbreaking, and it's really and then you're looking at the opportunities. You feel like all odds are against you and you have really spent to the last coin. Now you're thinking about after elections, you're starting from zero.
Zero.
Yes.
Was it because your passion for,
Yeah.
I mean, even in introducing yourself,
Yeah.
your passion for leadership, but also
Yeah.
making sure that community issues are articulated?
Yeah.
Would you say, because I am listening to you and thinking, my gosh, would you say it was worth it?
um I think I'm 50-50 about it. One, I'll
Yeah,
say it was worth it. And then again, I'll also look at it the other side of the coin. I really didn't deserve to go through all that.
all that
Yeah, but
politics should be
yeah, yeah,
easier.
yeah. But I mean, every challenge also comes with opportunities to learn.
That's true.
Also for next time. I mean, there's so many things that I would never have known about being in the political space directly if I had not vied this time. And I also tell people that me vying is not really for a win, but to also start a journey that one day we will look back and say, had we not started then,
Here,
maybe we'd not be
not be
here.
there.
Exactly.
And congratulations for resilience. One
Thank
of
you.
the things that I think I I have heard from other young women who vied
Yeah.
is the fear of, now that we vied,
Yeah.
are we employable?
Mm-hmm.
Right? In terms of even state of mind,
Yeah.
what's your feel? And I don't mean to, just push, because I know
Yeah.
this is it's not the easiest story to tell.
Yeah, after election, there's so much pressure, especially if you do not win. There's so much pressure from so many people and around you. People expect that if you vied and you do not get elected, maybe you need to be appointed for something. So there's this fear of what if I don't get? You
Mm,
don't even think about what if I don't get, how will I sustain myself, or how will I continue to live. You just think about what will those people say and all those kind of things. I have friends and even people that we were in the race with who after losing the election they have not left, they didn't leave their houses. I think they've just started to live recently because maybe they were not prepared that you either win or
or
lose.
lose.
So right now there's so much tension everywhere that will I really get a job? Will I really get back to my feet? Yeah.
And I think in terms of speaking, we don't realize the mental health
Oh yeah,
toll that
yeah,
it
yeah.
takes on, especially if you're young
Mm-hmm.
without no resources
Yeah,
or without big accounts.
yeah. You can imagine if people who are experienced and who have been in this race before were really stressed. So you can imagine being young and,
Yeah,
people who can knock on doors and just get the doors open versus you who's struggling to even get seen within those spaces of political leadership.
yeah, I think
Yeah,
we will get to that question of, so what's our advice to the people who ran, especially
yeah,
because young people representation and young women
yeah,
representation is key. And it's, even as we talk about it, we need to realize or actually look at the people who actually vied, the
yeah,
price they paid, but also how do we support them
yeah.
as youth, but also as young women.
Mm,
But I want to ask, one of the things that we saw in the the just ended election was
mm,
manifestos were around, people are not talking too much about roads, big roads. People are speaking about welfare, right? And for your party, it was the climate justice agenda.
yeah.
So I think for you as a climate justice activist, but
Mm-hmm.
also a person who ran
Yeah.
on that agenda
Platform. Yeah.
platform, why climate justice?
Growing up, like I told you, I've not been around conservation related issues, but it's something it's passion that developed through self teaching.
Mm-hmm.
I'd say I have really understood the effects of climate change on so many things.
Mm-hmm.
We go promising people, of course, when you go down to the people, it's very hard. I cannot go to a family that is facing GBV issues to tell them about climate. They want to know how their GBV issues will come to an end.
This is true.
You cannot go to a family that is sleeping hungry to tell them about environment. So you have to explain how environment conservation and climate action comes in.
Yeah, affects
Yes,
people in
but
on
still I
intersections.
feel
Yeah.
like from the top leadership down to the MCAs, we need to embrace telling people these issues so that they also look at it as something of importance in our agendas.
Mm.
The reason I say so is because if I promise people, if we have water shortages, for example, and we are telling people we will give them water, but at the back of our minds, we are not thinking about what has caused this shortage.
Mm.
If the problem is food security,
Mm.
and we do not want to acknowledge that climate change is the one that has caused all these, the weather
Droughts.
patterns are
Yeah.
changing. We used to farm maize twice in a year. Nowadays we do it once, including
Yes.
myself.
Yeah, including
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah, yeah,
I'm a
yeah.
village girl from Nyeri.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So you look at all these things that we are talking about poverty in most communities, climate change has worsened poverty levels, including my own community where we depend on cattle, we are pastoralists, we sell and all that. Right now, you can get a
Grasslands and
cow at
yeah.
5,000 shillings.
Oh,
So you can
that
imagine
lowers
exactly.
the
So
revenue
yes. So
within the
to me,
communities.
I felt like every economic model is beautiful, but environment and climate has to be at the center of any economic, political, and social development.
Mm,
For example, I like to give a very simple, practical example. If today we were wearing masks because of pollution, not COVID, it wouldn't be fancy,
this is true.
you know? It
Yeah,
wouldn't be fancy.
and
And
we've seen
yes,
countries
yeah,
that do
we've seen
that. Yeah.
even countries, I think, like India before, they've had
Mm,
such
with the
cases.
smog, yeah.
Yeah, so it's something that makes me think if we are going to the corridors of power, because outside the corridors of power, we have so many voices trying to speak for climate. We have so many people trying to finance climate. Within the corridors of power, then we need the conversation is there, but I felt the climate conversation was not taken seriously, and climate crisis was not treated as a crisis that it is.
And so it's getting us unawares.
Yes.
Now we in the middle. I mean, the world
Yeah.
and indeed Kenya is in the middle of a drought. We see food appeals everywhere. We have a new government, and as you're saying, climate change has always been treated like a periphery issue.
Yes.
Other issues, food security,
Mm-hmm.
we
Yeah.
speak about food security, but the
Yeah.
other issues seem to have priority.
Mm-hmm.
For one, young women, and I say young women because, and also let me maybe we should say generally women, because the effects of climate change
Yeah.
touch women most, and we can
Yes.
discuss
Yeah.
why.
Yeah. Yeah.
How do we, one, for the politicians or the governance processes,
Mm-hmm.
what is the place of the discussions in governance process? Like if we want to lobby around so that we have, we give gravitas to what you're doing,
Mm-hmm.
what are the places to go?
Mm-hmm.
Like if young women are in the villages,
Yeah.
where do they start
Yeah.
agitating for climate change policies?
Yeah. First of all, it's so I don't know how to put it this, but you see those people that we're talking about in the villages?
Mm-hmm.
Imagine they contribute almost nothing to what they are facing. And sometimes it's even a challenge going back to them to tell them that, this is what you can do to contribute to climate action, because in the
Because
first place, who brought it?
yeah,
You know? I feel like we really need to look at women as also agents of change.
yes, and not victims.
Yes,
Yeah,
because yes, we are victims, but we are also trying to bring solutions.
I agree.
If you look at, for example, like you said, where women are affected more in places where people have to travel far, to go and fetch water, it's women who fetch the water.
Yeah.
And on the way, they could get raped, they could get, attacked by
But they
animals, they
also
could get
lose
so
time
many
to do other
issues.
things like go to school
Exactly.
or do other,
Yes.
other economical
Yeah.
activities that would better their lives.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And even for their families, they are the ones who produce food. I mean, when you go back home, and if for those who have their moms, for example, you'll always ask mom what's there to eat.
This is true. The
Okay.
gender roles that are
Yes.
within communities.
So yeah, and then if you come to women taking spaces in climate action, there are so many. If you go to the villages, you realize that there are so many. For example, in a village in Kajiado County, where women come together, they contribute, and they look for people to dig boreholes for them so that they can have water access. That is a solution already that they are trying to provide. So these women need support. They need resources as well. They also need to be spotlighted so that they can be connected to people who can support them. They also need to be told that yes, we see you, we hear you, and we appreciate you.
Yeah.
That is very important. And if you look, for example, in the activism space, we have so many women, young and old women, who also need the support. And if you also look at in governance, so many women have also tried to come out to go for the positions. I remember when we were asking for votes, we used to tell people how one way of enticing people to vote for you that, as a woman, we take care of a family, we'll take care of a home.
Yeah.
If we
Which is a
understand that,
narrative that works
yeah, and
sometimes
then
and doesn't.
we
Yeah.
also have these. We are so empathetic, and we really care. If enough women are put in these spaces, then it's easy for things to go straight.
This is true.
Yeah.
You know, when you were speaking, I remember there's a research that was done by Oxfam that
Yeah.
said rural women, I think, spend about 8 to 12 hours in terms of household chores,
Yeah.
and it is worse
Yeah.
in rural areas that are semi-arid and arid.
Yeah.
And just looking at what you said in terms of we need to think about the effects of this
Yeah.
touch on women
Yeah.
that have nothing to do with it, but also perhaps when you say spotlight, I almost want to ask you the question about and also because you're from the Maasai community,
Yeah.
are there indigenous practices but also knowledge that we do not see that is supposed to, we are supposed to incorporate in how we approach the climate justice issue?
I think it, it's like we need to I'd say we need to adjust to current climatic change effects and future, because the way things look like, I mean, we are yet to experience more.
Yeah,
I
it can only
really,
get dire.
yes. And if you go down to the people, that's why I believe in, as much as we attend global conferences, we also need not to forget that we need to, we have local
Localize these
ideas, yeah,
mechanisms,
yeah,
yes.
yeah, and mechanisms to mitigate and to adapt to the effects. If you go down to people, you'll realize that most people are willing to practice other ways, but maybe they are not aware. There is no much education. Right now, people need to know that if we used to maybe like I said, we used to have 2 seasons in a year for maybe
And now we
maize
have one.
planting and
Yeah.
all that, and now we have one that it's not going to change maybe next year or maybe in years time, and now we need to start adjusting. Like, I think there was also an issue that the president talked about, that we move from rain dependent to irrigation systems. So, I mean, we need to also put that, like, make sure that we are having climate education conducted seriously from the grassroots levels upwards. I think that will also help people to understand why we need to shift from our what we are practicing now to what we need to practice for us to continue to survive. You know, it's like now we are heading to survival mode.
Oh, we
Yeah, you
are.
know, and
We
there are
are.
so many
And
people
even
already who've been surviving
that's
for
true.
the longest time. And, you know, sometimes I visit um, Kajado and I see what people go through, and even Samburu and all that. You see what people go through, and sometimes I can't even film. I just come back because it's
Yeah.
very like like emotional stories to tell, and it is also something that has pushed me to think of an initiative. I want to do an initiative called Adopt a Family, where we can link the people, the vulnerable, to families that can support. Maybe you can pick and support one family, or you can support one child, you can support
Oh, that
another
would be
person.
excellent.
Yeah, yeah, that's
Yeah.
something I'm really thinking about. And even as I go to COP27, I'm going to look for
Oh,
people
you're
who
going
are
to, of
going to
course, you're going to
support.
COP27.
Yes, because now we need to start thinking about these people. As much as we are talking about their issues, we are voicing their issues. There's also need to support where we can. I also feel like the government and should also add some of these people to their delegations to these conferences.
Because of their lived experiences.
Exactly, so
Yeah.
that they can tell their own stories. You know, sometimes we may not be able to tell other people's stories really well. And
Yeah.
even if it means through collecting stories that can be shared, so that countries responsible can really see why it
The
is urgent.
effects
The
of
same way they acted. I remember about COVID, you know, one day we didn't have COVID cases, and the next day we had.
COVID cases. Yeah.
Yes, and there was so much action. We need to do this. We are giving these billions of money so that we contain COVID.
Yeah, but the
But
same is
climate
not being
crisis is not.
replicated on climate.
That's the COVID scenarios made me realize that we can do everything and anything that we need for us um, to make sure that we don't get to the
To mitigate. Yeah.
irreversible
Yeah.
effects of climate change. And for climate change, we cannot self-isolate. When
Yeah,
it's
this is
flooding,
true.
you cannot hide in your own house.
No,
You
it covers
cannot,
everyone.
yeah, you cannot
It takes
quarantine
everyone.
for that. So I feel like there's so much need attention that should be paid to the same.
Hearing the issues that you want to mobilize around,
Yeah.
but also that the future of democracy is one of is breaking the hierarchies, like what we were talking about in terms of breaking the hierarchies that are usually present
Yeah.
in physical spaces. Would you say tech has let me not preempt the question. Would you say that tech is playing a part in terms of mobilizing digital movements, whether it's in climate justice, but also governance processes, especially for people who've been left out, youth, young people, young women? Would you say tech is an asset or a liability?
Yeah, definitely it is an asset. I mean,
Okay.
we've seen so many ways that we've used technology to mitigate in even different fields. If you look at right now, for example, people have used technology to create alternatives for so many things. We've seen technology that people have used to provide alternatives of plastic, energy from to clean sources of cooking and lighting and all that. So I feel like yes, technology has really been very important, and I feel like it's really more of an asset as compared to liability. Right now, I think also the presence of the digital space has really played a very key role, where we can connect to every part of the world and understand what is happening without necessarily having to be there. We have been able to even share stories through technology.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
to me, I feel technology is something that we also should continue to. There are so many untapped opportunities that we can tap into through technology.
Please join us for part 2 as Anita shares her experience vying for office as a young woman leader passionate about climate justice.